right, welcome friends. Welcome to a special edition of Faith Matters, and this is probably the last one we're going to do for the year. And it's a special edition because it's a multi-faith episode, so to speak. We're all representing different faith traditions, and so we thought it'd be nice to have a conversation about the uniqueness of our faith lives, but also the common ground that we have as believers. So welcome to all of you, Ruby and Mitchell and Arpan. I know you, but maybe, I don't know if you know yourself, if you know each other. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about who you are, what the tradition is, your faith tradition is, and what are you doing at Regis? You want to start?
Okay. So my name is Ruby. I'm a sophomore here. I'm Egyptian and I'm Muslim too, both. And yeah.
Right, and what are you studying at Regis?
Oh, I'm a public health major with a minor in biology.
Excellent, thank you.
My name is Mitchell Weiner. I'm a senior. I'm studying sport management and psychology. And I am from Plano, Texas, and I am Jewish.
Thank you. Welcome, Mitchell.
Thank you.
My name is Arpan Kakadia. I'm a junior biology major and exercise science minor, and I am a Hindu.
Great. And you all said what years you are, so you're, Mitchell, you're a senior?
Yes.
Junior.
Junior?
Sophomore.
Sophomore, great. All right, well, welcome, and again, thank you. Typically, we start off the conversation with just a little bit of an explanation about what does your faith mean to you, and how did you come to faith? Sometimes, people say, well, I was born into a certain tradition, but, and that's how it happens for many people, but then how does one claim it for oneself? So, and again, in any particular order, about your faith tradition and what it means to you, your faith.
I guess I'll start. I think for me it was like a weird fusion. So coming from an Indian family, faith is kind of already tied into our daily life, but it really depends on the family of how strongly tied into your faith you are. So for me, like, I wasn't too into faith when I was younger, especially like, being in elementary school. And then as I started to grow older, it's just something clicked in me where I wanted to engage more into it, just because I saw, other kids that were also from like Indian backgrounds really engaging in going to the temple and praying. And that's something I didn't want to feel left out of, so that's kind of how I started getting more deeper into it.
Great, thank you.
That's awesome. So for me, I grew up and I went to Jewish day school until I was in the 7th grade. So it was kind of part of my everyday life, learning Hebrew, learning the history of Israel, and the faith and religion that comes with that. And then when I was 13, I was bar mitzvahed, and that's kind of when it all clicked for me that, in the religion, I'm technically a Jewish man, and it was kind of crazy to think that at 13. But going away to college, it kind of made me think of like missing like being with my Jewish friends and like learning about the religion when it's not really dominant religion here. So I kind of grew up into it, learning how to speak, and the background kind of just faded away as I got older.
Thank you, Mitchell.
For me, I was born into a Muslim family. But also, like Arpan, as I grew older, I learned to appreciate it more and learn more about it and like combine it with my daily routine. Even though we've always like done all the traditions and all the history that comes from it and all the practices from it like throughout my whole life, but as I got older, I learned how it's very valuable to me in my personality and the way I treat others and the way people would treat me, and how I would learn from others, even coming from back home to coming here with a whole different group of people, diverse. Mm-hmm. So with my religion, it tells us to treat people as if you would treat your family, no matter where you come from, no matter what you are, no matter whatever. As long as they're a human being, you treat them the way you would like to be treated. So other than that aspect, like just even the practices, like the 5 daily prayers that we do every day, it helps like being humbled. And with Ramadan and the fasting, like it humbles you and it makes you learn what other people, like for example the poor that don't have access to food every day, or like all the time, like us, like we do. We learn to see what they're going through throughout their lives and to appreciate all the stuff that we have. And also it like everything like about my religion is basically like my personality, me and my family's personality, and yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to ask too that, sometimes people make a distinction between the religion and the spirituality. And I've heard that in the best case scenario, a religion has a good spirituality. Well, they're the same thing. So I wanted to ask, and Ruby, you talked about a little bit about in the general religion and tradition that you're in, what does it do for you personally that helps, as you said, make you a better person?
Basically, with the practices of our Prophet, the way he practiced the religion and the way he used to treat the people around him, even the ones that back then, like when he was still spreading Islam, the people that still weren't Muslim. So before he got the revelation, he wasn't a Muslim, he was just normal like the rest of the people. So the people already knew his personality. He was a very kind person. He always treated, he was known as being honest. He never lied. So when the people, like the true believers, when he introduced Islam to them, they knew that he was a good person and to trust him with whatever he says. So by practicing, so we have something called sunnah. Sunnah is basically the way of how the Prophet lived his life with the religion. So by us practicing the sunnah, we learn to copy what our Prophet does throughout his day by treating people kindly, by helping others, whether financially, whether with anything. Just always help others and you will get the reward of helping. Like for example, we have a thing, that's why I wanted to be a doctor. Like when you, in our Quran, it says when you save one person, it's as if you saved all of mankind. So just by the sunnah, by what the Quran says, like just treating people the way you like to be treated, with kindness and love.
And that's something that you try to do every day, because I've seen it in action, so. Yeah.
And actions always are more than words. Just by portraying like the way I am, it shows that with my personality, with my religion, that's what people are gonna see. You can always say this, and this, but people believe actions. They don't necessarily believe words. You know what I mean?
Well said. Thank you. And Mitchell, how about the same thing for you? What does your religion do for you in terms of helping you be the person that you want to be?
Well, it's hard to follow up after that.
I know.
I mean, she touched on a lot of great points. At a young age for me, I was taught the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated. And I try to, be kind and respectful to anyone or everyone, no matter what religion, background, where they're from, who they are, what they've said to me, what they've done to me. Just kindness is, it's so important, especially in today's world. So that's what I try to do every day.
And I've seen that on campus as well.
Thank
you. Yes. And Arpan, how about yourself?
I think it's a combination of everything what they said, and more specifically with the common theme of pleasing God. So I know in Hinduism, the main thing is to obtain liberation and essentially go to heaven. I think a lot of people hear reincarnation as kind of a component of Hinduism. That's actually something that's not good. Rather, you want to be liberated than be reincarnated. And pretty much doing exactly what they had mentioned, those are ways to please God, and it really makes you human and really humbles yourself and allows you to really make a positive impact while making a positive impact for yourself as well.
And I know that in Christianity there's an emphasis on personal relationship with the deity, with God, with ultimate reality. Is that something that's found in your religions as well, that God is not trying to reduce God to something less than divine and ultimate, but there's a way in which one can know and be known in an intimate way? Is that something that's part of your traditions?
Can you explain it again?
So within Christianity, there's Almighty and all-powerful God, but yet there's an emphasis in certain spirituality where God can be known, and I can build a relationship with God, almost like a friendship. And the intimacy is not meant to diminish the power and majesty of God, but it's a way to relate.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm just wondering in your traditions, if there's that same sense of relationship to God that is intimate and loving.
Yeah, like in like when I mentioned the 5 daily prayers that we do, there's 5 for a reason throughout the day to keep you always connected with God. And even the stance with like the positioning when we pray, when we put our heads to the ground, we're being humbled. But also you're closest to God when your head is knelt down. That's where like the relation, and then you can pray and ask for whatever you want, and ask for forgiveness, or ask to whatever you need. But always, like, those 5 daily prayers are always a reminder that God is always with us, even not even when we just pray, like even throughout the whole day, throughout, like, in general, just having that personal relationship with God, like to be able to ask him for anything you need, always depending on God. Or at least for, like, in my situation, I always depend on God, because in the end, he's the one that controls our lives. We don't have much. I believe in, I don't believe in coincidence. I believe everything happens for a reason, and he's in control of that. So.
And your prayer is a way to maintain presence. Like
Yeah.
just an awareness of God's presence.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting. Mitchell, how about you?
I feel like in the Jewish religion, you have like a connection with God, but I feel like as like a Jewish religion, I feel like it's a strong connection with others as well, like in the religion. It's kind of an abstract way to look at it, but I feel like Jewish people, even if you don't know them, you know them. And I feel like there's such a, like, a strong relationship between people that follow the religion. I personally haven't been to Israel, but it's one place that I am super excited to visit, because I have a connection with that place even though I've never been, and I feel like it's just a strong connection for the Jewish people as a whole.
Yeah. Arpan.
I would definitely agree with what Ruby was saying earlier with the power of prayer. I know in Hinduism that's like your one-on-one time with God right there, to pretty much just make yourself vulnerable and let anything you need out and receive those answers. But also, like, another addition to that too is in Hinduism we have a word called niyam, which is pretty much like rules, the rough translation. So pretty much following the daily rules of being a Hindu. So not eating meat, being nonviolent, those things, that goes a long way to please God. So that's kind of another kind of one-on-one connection each of us can have with God.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I may have asked you before, so in my little understanding of Hinduism, that there is ultimate reality, but that there's literally millions of manifestations. And then people gravitate towards a manifestation of God that they feel like they have a connection with. Is that kind of accurate?
It really depends. Just because, like, India is such a diverse country, each region you go to, there's different forms of Hinduism. There's there's different languages, different ways of life.
Mm-hmm.
For me specifically, kind of the I guess the denomination you could say of Hinduism I follow, it's just one God that we see, and it's similar to Islam and Christianity and Judaism, where you see that God as the supreme being of the entire universe. So that's kind of what myself and what I really go to.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm curious as to, I take it for granted as a Catholic Christian that this is the dominant religion here, in on our campus and in this area, and so it's easy for me to find ways to nurture my faith. And I'm wondering about, is it difficult for you to find ways to nurture your faith and to be connected in a community of believers, being at Regis or in the Northeast?
So I can relate to this part, because obviously we're not the dominant religion here at all. But like, for example, like with Ramadan is where we come close with our family. So like back home we would always have gatherings and stuff, but here it's more difficult, and even more difficult with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get to meet like the rest of the extended family or friends. Well, now we're vaccinated, so we can.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying, like, in general it was difficult. But I've gotten really close with, like, last Ramadan it was like mid like COVID, and we still weren't like, not a lot of like regulations were still done. So me and my family, like, we got really close during that time. We would pray together. We have extra prayers that we do during Ramadan, so we would pray them together. We finished reading like the whole Quran together. So it was very like family oriented. That like it was, I think it was one of my favorite Ramadans so far. And then this year, like, we started that again. But now we have, like, my stepbrother got married, so he is going to bring his wife. And then my stepsister also has her extended, like, family coming in. And just more family has been coming into the picture. So I'm excited to, like, get to know them more. And, like, get to know more, like, my religion. And, like, further, like, understand more the Quran. And, like fully like put it into practice with my life and everything. And like with the culture, like we also have like culture to, usually you would go to the mosque and pray the prayers, but now we do it at home because of COVID. But when we would go to the mosque, like just the whole vibe of like everyone coming together and praying together, like in lines, like just focusing on like the words of God from the Quran is just very like pure and like calm and very friendly. And like it's as if your community is like back together, especially since I miss it because like back home that's what the normal was, but now here like I took it for granted. So when I'm in like an area where like, oh, this is like my people, my stuff with the food, oh my god, the food is so good during Ramadan. So it's just, I like it a lot. It's my favorite month.
And I'm glad that sometimes during the daytime, when you're instructed to go to prayer, that you use our peace room. So I'm glad that we have a space for you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, well, it's the least we can do, believe me. How about yourself, Mitchell and Arpan? Is it hard to nurture your faith on our campus or in the Northeast?
For me, not really. I think the kind of the foreforemost thing is, you know, if you're really driven into your faith, nothing's really going to get in your way to stop you from doing that. So that's kind of been the goal of mine with that. But I've been fortunate enough that having that temple in Lowell and being able to connect with a lot of the guys that are, you know, my age in college, and then going to like different retreats and meeting kids from other centers across the country and building that connection. Really never alone with anything like that. And anytime I want to talk about something related to whatever I've read, I always have someone to go to, and especially with, you know, just anyone in that community. So I've been really fortunate with that. So I think other than that, really just keeping, you know, a good vision on how I see God has just kept me going.
Yeah, and a temple in Lowell, awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mitchell.
Yeah, well, I think he had a great point about you know, if you're passionate about your religion, there's nothing gonna stop you. I feel like the biggest thing that's gonna stop you is yourself, getting out of your comfort zone. I mean, I'm from Texas. I don't have a group of friends that I can just go hang out with and do Jewish stuff with. So, like for the major holidays, I had to get out of my comfort zone and make new friends. I went to Brandeis, which is just down the street. It's a predominantly Jewish school, and they had a service and they had a meal, and it was great for me to celebrate and, you know, pray with other Jewish students.
Yeah. Well, you know, probably the last question I have, I wish we could talk all day, and I know you've got schedules and things to do, but we're hoping to start an interreligious club next year. That's one of our goals to work on. But one of the things that it might do is to address misperceptions about your faith traditions. And I'm just wondering, have you run into misperceptions or people who think they know about you, but they really don't, and make judgments about you? And has that been difficult or challenging for you all?
Okay, I can start. So I've had misperceptions in both like the culture and the religion, especially when I first came here, because like not a lot of, actually a little bit, but in my area not a lot of like Arabs or Egyptians come here, like, and Muslims too. You can see Arabs but they're not Muslims. So even, like high school, they weren't as like older and more understanding as college per se, so I had a few nice encounters there, but I like explained like respectfully, like, no, this is how it goes, blah blah blah. And then here, thankfully, I I don't think I had anyone talking not nice to me, especially since I don't look like the typical, like when you see me you probably wouldn't think I'm Muslim. So I haven't had that type of misconception, but when I would talk and explain, they'd ask questions, so I would explain, no, this is how it goes, and this is what we are, don't listen to the news
Right.
at all. Listen to me.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed that I haven't encountered maybe because we're also in a nice area, not back somewhere. So we're in a protected area. I don't encounter even in Massachusetts, it's not, they're very welcoming of us, so
Good to hear
I'm
that.
glad.
I would say, fortunately, I haven't had any, I guess, bad encounter. It's more of, for me, I guess just people asking me, not really knowing much, just because they've never been exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know the first thing I always tell people is just whatever you learn about Hinduism, it's very broad. And I always try to remind people, Hinduism, it really comes from India, in that area, and of course India is such a diverse place, so depending on where you look at, it's really hard to teach someone about Hinduism, because you have to go, region by region, but I just try to tell them, just make sure you're just aware of that. And then, wherever area you want to look at, then that's where you can really get a good focus and then start to build upon, kind of the greater mass of what Hinduism really is.
Yeah, and I feel like Arpan touched on a good point there as well. Just a lot of people don't have the knowledge and the background just because of where they came from and how they grew up. I've had multiple students here that have never met a Jewish person before because they grew up in Catholic school their whole life, even at Regis. So they just they're not aware of the religion or the rituals and traditions. So it's more of a learning opportunity for people like that. I mean, I hate to say it, but there's always going to be anti-Semitic comments and stereotypes and stuff like that, which it's unfortunate that it's still happening. But like we all said earlier, kindness and respect will hopefully help demolish that in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And that's our hope, that we, as we get to know each other, we really come to appreciate the richness of each other as human beings and as people and traditions with so much to offer, and to find out that we have much more in common than we have, against each other. So, any final words or thoughts before I thank you all? And I really do mean it. I thank you all for coming. But
Thank you for
Thank you,
having
yeah.
us.
well, to be continued then. And again, Arpan and Mitchell and Ruby, thank you so much for being with us for
Thank
this
you.
special edition of this. And hopefully we'll continue on with our club next year.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you.